Yo, welcome in. We are live. I mean, just a joyous occasion to see you every week, to get to talk to you, catch up, and talk about this football team.
We didn't think this would be like this year. We thought this year would be different, right? We had look, this had to be the year it finally clicked. It finally worked. We had our reservations, last off season when they decided to keep a few guys and not clean house and not line it up. We had some reservations, but hey, Flus had his glow up. He said all the right things in the pressers. Let's give it a shot. No.
Maybe we'll get into this in the podcast. Look, I went back as I'm like, have I ever been nice to Matt Eberflus? Because I remember when he was hired and everybody's like, what do you think? What do you think? And I was like, I don't know. Like, this is like, of all the guys that they talked about, I have no opinion of this guy. I got nothing. Let's give him a chance. And then I'm going back, I'm looking at what I have written, what I have tweeted about, what I have, I didn't go back to listen to all the podcasts or anything. I can't find a single nice thing that I've said about this guy. And I found an article from last September after week 1 where I blasted him. And I'm like, and I believe I titled it like, Flus needs to, something about the play the hits or hit the bricks.
Yeah.
Because inspired by you, like hit the bricks, pal. And I know, and we were very early. We don't like to, we want to be balanced, right?
Yeah.
Because that's the whole point of the show. And we talked about it and we said, you know what? We've seen enough. This guy needs to be fired. And we brought it up on the show and we've taken our time. It's been about a year and a half and we've seen enough of this guy and it ain't it. It's not him. He ain't it. And after you say that, you can't really, backpedal off of that. Like that, you've made your evaluation, you made it clear. They come out, they don't fire him. It's like, well, okay, we've already made our position clear. We've done our evaluation, but we'll cheer for him. Like, well, it is what it is. We're not gonna. And then all of this happens, and it's like, yeah, this is what we kind of saw. This is just kind of who he is. He's not a guy that takes responsibility. He doesn't seem like he's got that leadership quality that you want in a head coach. And I'm not shocked that this has happened once the leadership level of the locker room rose to the level it is.
Yeah, we kind of talked about a little bit last week how this is a pretty strong locker room, right? As far as personalities go, as far as leaders go, veterans, it's more of a veteran group. This is year 3 of the rebuild. Okay. So there are no guys that are just out there just to kind of bide their time. There are no Armand Watts, right, playing defensive line. This roster is built, I'm not saying built to be a contender, but it's built to win. This is a good roster.
Be competitive.
Montez Sweat, DJ Moore, a lot of veterans. So I'm not surprised that, the results aren't happening and they're looking around and they see the head coach kind of, deflect a little bit, which what he did last year until he got talked to, I'm sure at some point. He did it early this year. He deflected. He didn't take accountability. And then, of course, he starts taking accountability. But look, by this point, I'm sure there's already some players that are kind of just like tuning him out. The message isn't working. The wins aren't there. The scheme is bad. And I've seen some fans, he's still a good defensive coordinator. Is he, though? The whole Washington game kind of soured me on that, too. It's like, how is that your forte, right? Defense? And you just piss away 13 yards. When the other defensive guy, Dan Quinn, said that's the most important play of the game. And Flus said it's not a big, I don't know, just like you said, we're not surprised. This is what we saw. Blowing games, blowing late game leads. Historically, the worst losses in the team history has been under his watch. It can't continue, but it's going to continue at least one more week.
I mean, we'll see. You know what? Save the powder.
Yeah.
Let's get into it and let's record the podcast and we'll go from there. So let's hit it. Welcome to Bear and Balance. I'm Jeff Berckes. On the other side of the screen, Lester A. Wiltfong Jr. Lester, the Chicago Bears are dead.
They are. The time of death of the season was probably could have went back retroactively to the end of the Washington game because it seemed like that loss demolished and demoralized the entire team because Arizona, they had nothing. New England, they had nothing. What are they going to have next week against the Packers, who are a good team? The Patriots stink. That's a bad team. The Cardinals, they're playing better, but at the time, they had some warts. They couldn't rush the passer. They sure as hell rushed the Bears, so the same with the Patriots. So it's going to be rough. It's going to be a rough one.
I saw some comment from like a anonymous GM or something like that said that the Bears took a cannon shot to the broadside of the ship, and they're just taking on water, and that's just what's happening. Like, are they going to be able to recover from this? And it sure doesn't seem like it. You can make the analogy like they got shot in Washington, and they're on life support, and they time of death. I made that tweet at some point in the Cardinals game. It was a time of death of the 2024 Chicago Bears. And, we called it there. Right. And so this isn't surprising necessarily that they were going to come home and lay an egg again. Not even lay an egg. That's the expectation. Lay an egg is like, oh, you're expected to win. They were favored in this game because the Patriots aren't good. We need to drill this down a little bit here. Just hammer this home. The Patriots are a bad football team. And they came in and they dominated the Chicago Bears. Like 9 sacks from a team that could not rush the passer coming into this game. Now, I understand. We'll get into the offensive line stuff. But 9 sacks. That's a reflection of, yes, the offensive line talent. It's also the reflection of the game plan, knowing that you had to worry about a backup offensive line, which is essentially what you were starting. They had more explosive plays. That's not hard when the Bears have 0, but they had more explosive plays than the Bears, right? So they came in and dominated the Chicago Bears. I just don't like, I can't, it's one of the worst teams in the league. Like, maybe people haven't talked about that enough or thought about that enough because it's an AFC team. But imagine if that would have happened when they played the Panthers. That's essentially what this was. It's a team that's equivalent to the Panthers, came in to Soldier Field and dominated the Bears.
Yeah, that would have been bad. I mean, like something changed over the bye. I don't know what it was. I don't know if the whole team as a whole got complacent. I don't know if they started believing their own hype. Hey, we got 3 wins in a row. It's a winning streak. Look at us go. Something happened over the bye because I mean, even the offense looks different. Even the sequencing of plays look different. I mean, we were critical of Waldron early on, but look, he's feeling things out. He's trying to learn his personnel. And then as he kind of got a rhythm in a few things, I kind of saw, okay, I see the vision. I see how certain plays marry with each other. I see how there's a good sequence here of calls. I see how this kind of builds off what they're trying to do. Some of the formations, a lot of screens, a lot of bubbles. They were still there, but I started seeing some pump and goes, some phase on the sideline after the bubble. So I see him kind of working some stuff off. I'm like, okay, I see he's building it. Then the bye came, and then post bye, this team just was unprepared. They're outcoached every game since the bye. I don't know. It's just like you said, this is the balance show, and this not balanced today. I mean, we'll hit Trent's tribute, which is something positive, but after that, man, get ready, guys. It's going to go downhill from there.
So listen, we don't swear on this show. Like, we have made that decision that we would love.
I've dropped a few.
You come close a few times. I don't think you've ever dropped an F-bomb or anything like that. Like, we certainly swear in our regular lives. Yeah. Me personally, too much, but we try to keep the show clean. We want you to be able to listen to this around kids and everything. We're not going to like do what Bill did last week where he, warned you. We'll keep it clean, but
PG-13 at least. That's the best.
We're not happy, but we're also just like, yeah, we kind of saw this coming. Like, this is not a shocker here. So you'll get the anger from Bill. That's what I'll say. But I will tell you that so much of my answers here, they're not balanced. They're tongue in cheek. I'm not going to be super balanced tonight because I don't think getting manhandled by one of the worst teams in the league deserves a lot of praise.
Yeah.
So it is what it is, but I don't know. I had today off. Today's Veterans Day. I had the day off and I spent 4 hours prepping for this show. I normally spend like 90 minutes, 2 hours prepping for the show. I spent 4 hours because I just kept digging into the crap pile that this is. And I just couldn't stop myself because there's just so many bad layers to this team right now. And I just wanted to really understand this in the historical context that it's in, how he got here, what's happening. It is bad. And so Trent's tribute, I'm really excited to see if you actually found something positive, because I did not.
I found the most positive thing I can find. I tried, man. I tried looking at defense. The D line got gashed quite a bit. I mean, the Patriots ran all over him with a. You think the Bears have a bad O line? The Pats have a pretty bad O line as well. Backups, second stringers, guys playing out of position, undrafted free agents, practice squatters. Okay, but they're able to scheme things around, and they have some success. So I watched the game. I hated watching it. Rewatch was so terrible. I kind of went back and watched some highlights. I settled on Tevin Jenkins because when he was in there early, he had some plays. Again, we're not talking of where the Trent's tribute should be, but I couldn't find anyone else. He had, I think, 18, 19 snaps. That's all I could find.
Snaps.
That's all I could find was Tevin Jenkins.
I mean, we love Tevin Jenkins. We love him. Tevin Jenkins has started every game up to this point. I think that's probably going to stop. I haven't heard an update on his injury, but
he was in a boot after the game.
He's in a boot. That's generally missing time when you're in a boot, but I'm going to hold until I see an injury report. Tevin Jenkins has started every game this season. He has missed plays in 5 of the last 6 games that he started.
Yeah. That
is not a good trend. And, good for him for battling through whatever he's battling through. But this was the year that he needed to be available for, 16 games, 15 games. And this is just it's not enough. And so this is the last that we're seeing of Tevin Jenkins. So maybe his last chance to get a transfer, depending on how bad this injury is. We don't know. I don't have an update. We just know that he was in a boot. That's the last update here. Oh, I went back and I tracked all of the snap count in the Ryan Poles era of the offensive line, because I wanted to know where the Bears were at for this year, because I was like, oh, they've only used 4 different starting offensive line combinations. It just feels like more. We talked about it last week. They used 9 different starting combinations in 2022, 9 different starting combinations in 2023. They've used 4 now. If Jenkins is out, it's an assured 5th one coming up this week against the Packers. There'll be more because Wright will come back, and you hope Jones will come back, and so there'll be different combinations that'll happen here. Bates is back. We don't know exactly where he'll end up landing here. So there's going to be more. I don't know if it'll be 9, but the number of players that played a snap 2 years ago was 12. The number of players that played an offensive line snap last year was 10. And the number of players that have already played an offensive line snap for the Chicago Bears in 2024 is 12. They've already met it, and they've got 8 games left. Now, I don't know if there's anybody else. That person might not be available yet. I don't know if the Beneday is going to be able to play this year. That's on the practice squad. I don't know if they have anybody else, Lester. But the point is, they've already used 12 offensive linemen. Now, once Jenkins went out, here's what you had. Left to right, you had Larry Borum, Doug Kramer, Coleman Shelton, Ryan Bates, Matt Pryor. Translation, in other words, Lester, you had your offensive tackle 4 playing left tackle. You had your practice squad center 3 playing left guard. I cannot tell you how bad of an idea that is. You had your backup center playing center. You had your starting center. Again, this is what you envisioned from the start.
Pre.
Your starting center playing right guard. So you have 3 centers playing your interior offensive line. And you have your right guard 3 offensive tackle, swing tackle, just kind of utility offensive lineman, Matt Pryor playing right tackle. You had no starters playing the original position that you brought him in for. So my trench, it blows my mind that happened. That happened in an NFL game for the team that is our favorite team. So my trench tribute is Coleman Shelton. Is he a good football player? No, he is not. Did he have a good football game on Sunday? No, he was bad. But I'm giving it to him because he has played every snap except for 6 at center this year. And it was 3 kneel downs in 2 different games that they let Doug Kramer snap. He has made every single snap other than the kneel down snaps. That is the most consistent player on this team, is the guy that was originally signed to compete for, but probably be the backup center. He has played every meaningful snap for this team.
Coleman Shelton, the Iron Man award winner, that O-line. Yeah, that's a bad stat. That, I mean, like you said, there's no one left. I mean, who's left? I mean, you mentioned Beneday. They already brought up Jake Curran from the practice squad. He was elevated. You know, literally the Bears were 1 injury away from Mercedes Lewis being your next man up at the tight end because Nate Davis was sent home. He showed up at the facility. My back hurts. They checked him out. Oh, your back is hurting. Just go home. We don't want you standing around the sideline with a bad back. I mean, aren't there benches on the sideline? I mean, I don't know. This whole Nate Davis thing smells like, hey, you're not going to play. We're going to go with Ryan Bates over you. And then I don't know, man. I don't want to speculate on something like that because that's rough. But man, from the outside looking in, that's horrible optic that you're one guy that's, you know, isn't he making the most money on your line?
Oh yeah, yeah.
He just rolls up and he's like, my back hurts. I'm not even gonna. And then just go home. We don't even want you here on the bench because you have to stand around. Very, very odd.
He'd be playing. Yeah, I mean, he had to have been being paid more than Wright. Wright's making good money because he's a top 10 pick. But yeah, if he was okay, do you think that they would have gone with Kramer still over him?
Well, there was some speculation before the game. I think it might have been on Friday. It might have popped out when they announced the injuries. They announced Bates is likely back. I think it might have been Brad Biggs said, you know, don't count on Bates being the next man up at guard. So the speculation was it would probably be Davis getting the start over Ryan Bates.
Yeah.
Because Ryan Bates had just come back from IR. Yeah, he was a full participant, but you look at Eberflus's history at O-line. Whenever a guy comes back off IR, he rotates him for some reason.
Yeah.
He never just puts him, hey, you're the starter, get your ass in there. You know, no, it's he always wants to rotate him. So the speculation was by Biggs, and I saw someone else, might have been Fishman, I forget. They kind of they didn't say it, but they alluded to, don't assume it's going to be Ryan Bates, which then if you're going to connect the dots, it would have had to have been Nate Davis. But then, of course, my back hurts. Like, I mean, hey, look, I'm old, so I wake up with a bad back sometimes. It happens. But what is Nate Davis, 29, 28? I don't think he should be waking up with a bad back.
Okay, so if Davis was fine, it would have been Davis or Bates. But clearly they prefer Bates. But maybe they would have rotated. And then Jenkins gets hurt. I would assume
Bates
that they would put Bates over to left guard and they keep Davis at right guard.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, anyway, I'm just trying to figure this whole thing out. Tracking this is so ridiculous.
Whatever they do next week, it cannot be Doug Kramer starting at guard.
No, he's not a guard. Well, he's barely a center. I don't mean to pick on the guy. No. He's just because look, he's impressive athletic career to be anywhere close to an NFL football field. I ton of respect for anybody that can get that far. I just don't think he's big enough, and I'm not seeing it when he has had an opportunity to have snaps. But if he's going to have snaps, they got to be at center, and he's got to be protected by a couple of bigger guards. He can't play guard. That doesn't work that way. Like you can't go the other way when you're not big enough. Like you can't bump out to a guard spot. You can't bump a smaller guard out to a tackle spot. Like it just doesn't work that way. You can bump guys in, but you can't bump them out like that. Oh, it's such a bad idea. Oh, I mean, it's a disaster. It's exactly what I thought was going to happen. Yeah. Lester, it's bad. It's bad.
Bad.
Let's get to the Twitter portion. And by the way, maybe the Blue Sky portion. Maybe we'll be talking more on the other app. We both set up an account. We're over there. I want to call it Blue Ski, because just it kind of runs together. Sounds like a special teamer on the Bears from like the 70s, like Pat Bluesky, right? Had
Yeah.
16 special team tackles back in the day. Anyway, Blue Sky, it's my last name at Berckes, Berckes. You are over there at
Same thing. All my socials are the same, whether it's on
Wiltfong
Threads, whether
Jr.
it's on IG, which I don't do, at Wiltfong Jr. But yeah, I'm there. So for my tweet this week goes hand in hand with my number last week, right? So I discussed how awful the Bears were on third downs last week. They were even worse yesterday. So Kevin Fishbane, of course, at K Fishbane, does great work for the Athletic covering the Bears. His tweet was, since 1991, the Bears have had at least 14 third downs in a game, 270 times. Only twice have they failed to convert more than once. Yesterday, and 12/17/2007, another 1 for 14 performance. Then he put friendly reminder, the Pats entered today 27th on third downs on the defense. He had a hat tip to Stathead. The Pats suck. That's a terrible
They're
defense.
Very bad.
Yeah.
They're very bad at football. And
Yeah.
it wasn't even close. The game wasn't close.
1 for 14 on third downs. I mean, that's hard. I mean, we'll talk a little bit more about it in Caleb's corner, but it wasn't all the Waldron. It was some Caleb. It was just some bad calls. Of course, penalties reared its ugly head again with the Bears there a few times. So if you can't get off the field, if you're going 3 and out all the time, that's just that's bad.
When you have pre-snap penalties that put you behind the sticks, when you take sacks, like those are drive killers. And there were plenty of both in this guy. We already mentioned the 9 sacks. But there were plenty of pre-snap penalties, and they really have a tendency to just stop drives. Now it's 1st and 15, or it's 2nd and 13 because you had a false start, right? Or that was 3rd and 2 that you went up to the line for, but now it's 3rd and 7, right? And so those pre-snap just procedure penalties that have been an issue all year. That's an undisciplined team. Like that is a team that is not there with the details. So whatever the scheme's too complicated or the communication's not there, whatever it is, there's some issues there. Good stuff from Fishbane. All right, from mine, Tim Jenkins says the drop off from the Bears from London to now when it comes to offensive innovation, creative concepts is something we should study for decades. This is truly incredible, and I'm not sure how you roll into a bye week and come out this awful. So he's a quarterback guru guy. Like, he's done a lot of good work. A lot of people like Tim Jenkins. And I mean, he's noticing what we noticed too. Like you had an upward trajectory. Things were starting to look good. You get into this bye week and it has come out. And you wouldn't wish this on your worst enemy. Let me rephrase that. You wouldn't wish this on your second worst enemy.
Yeah.
So this is crazy. Like this is insane. The step back that it's taken. And this is just a quarterback guru. It's just one guy. No, it's Kurt Warner's out there talking about it. Dan Orlovsky's talking about it. JT O'Sullivan's talking about it. The Kyle Brandt, the morning footballs. Mike Greenberg's all over. I almost put a Greenberg quote up here. Cowherd. Like, this is national. Daniel Jeremiah. Like, all of the big dogs in football are talking about this team and their failure. Why? Why do they care, Lester? Because they have the number 1 overall pick, Caleb Williams, who is the most talented quarterback prospect to come out since Andrew Luck. It matters. And when you screw it up like this, it is on full display for all of these guys that spend their entire lives looking at this stuff. So what the hell are you doing?
Yeah, going into the season, the Bears had a pretty big spotlight on them because of Caleb. Year 3 of the rebuild, right? The whole flu school up thing that mattered. I mean, that was a big national story for a while there too. Hard Knocks, was out there. So everyone's watching the Bears, right? They had some issues early. They kind of, rebounded the 3-game win streak. Here comes the bye. Caleb Williams versus Jaden Daniels, right? Big game got flexed. And then they did that. The Bears have been the national talk pretty much all year. It's a big story. But since the Washington game, the fail Mary, since that happened, it's gone the other way. This has been, why are they sticking with Waldron? Why are they sticking with Flus? Why are they not making a change? Are they going to ruin Caleb? This is the talk. Yeah, there's some injuries, and we've talked about that, but other teams can scheme around these issues. The Bears can't.
They can't even figure out what your starters do well and put those guys in a position to succeed. How would they scheme around guys that they don't know very well that are backups, right? Like, I mean, that's asking way too much. All right, we've already talked about it, dance around it. Let's get into Caleb's corner. So Caleb Williams stat line, 16 of 30 for 120 yards. No touchdowns, no interceptions. He took 9 sacks for 51 yards, lost, scrambled twice for 15 yards. Let's talk about the 0 interceptions, because we continue to come back to this, because this was a thing that Flus talked about a lot. Like, oh, I think he blamed Caleb maybe for some of those early losses for turning the ball over a little bit too much. And now you've seen Caleb Williams come out of this break, and he is not putting up a lot of stats, and he is keeping the ball away from the other team. There are no turnovers here, no turnover worthy plays. He's not putting the ball in harm's way. He's being ultra conservative. Someone tweeted at me a while ago that the Bears needed Caleb Williams to play like Kyle Orton in his rookie year. Kyle Orton put up terrible stats in his rookie year.
Sucked, yeah. Please
look it up before you say something dumb like that to me. But I hope you like it. I hope you got your wish, buddy. Like, this is what it is when a defensive head coach tries to control a guy whose superpower is being able to make big plays. Laura Oakman, with a sideline hit, said something to the effect of, we want him to play point guard, which we have heard before.
Yeah.
And she said something like, he's been a shooting guard for his whole life, and now you're asking him to play point guard. And so to reinforce that, the coaches have been playing highlights, not of his big highlight throws, but of the times that he's distributed the ball to his weapons and they have run with it. So they are trying to hammer home how he is better when he is a point guard. Lester, I put this out on a tweet. Ryan Poles bought Matt Eberflus a sports car. Eberflus put snow tires and chains on it and drives it to the grocery store once a week and never takes it above 25 miles an hour. This is insane.
Yeah.
This is insane. This is you gave the guy Michael Jordan, gave him a shooting guard, and you said, please don't shoot the ball. Please pass it to everybody else. Like, this mentality is insane. And this is why we hated the idea of keeping this conservative, defensive-minded head coach to pair with this prospect.
You nailed it. Flus is who he is. He's conservative. He's a defensive, conservative guy. This is who he was last year. It's who he was the year before. This is what he did with Getsy. Now, Getsy has his own problems because now he's no longer working for the Raiders. But we saw how quick Getsy got picked up. He was picked up pretty quickly. He had interviews right away. People believed in what he was selling at the time. And like I said, it didn't work out. But at the time, that's where they're going. But Flus has neutered his offenses before. We've seen it, and we're seeing it again. I'm glad you brought up that Laura Oaken hit on the sideline, because I had it in my notes to bring up here. Sticking with the basketball analogy, that's fine if you wanted to be your point guard, but you're not asking to be your non-scoring point guard. You wanted to be Allen Iverson, right? You wanted to be Michael Jordan when they said, hey, you're going to run point here during the playoff run. That's the point guard you want from him, because he can also make those fantastic plays as a shooting guard. You want the ball in his hands. You want him to distribute. Okay. And maybe as a rookie, that's something you want to do a little more, because look, Patrick Mahomes, as great as he is, he's still at his best when he's just kind of getting the ball to Kelsey, when he's doing his thing, when he's kind of working through it. The flashes come because he can do that. Are the flashes being coached out of Caleb? Are all the off-script stuff being coached out of Caleb? Do all they want is, like you said, all they want is Kyle Orton back there? Then why the hell draft him if that's your plan? They gave him the keys to the offense. They said, go out there, and he's doing a lot at the line still. He's running it, but then you see him get out there. And then like you said, he's missing guys too, though. So it's not like, the point guard aspect is not always sinking in. He's being safe with the ball. I'm not sure if it was tweeted out. I know our guy Jay Wood mentioned something in one of the chats we're in. He's gone a lot of passes now without throwing a pick, like 100 passes almost. but he also hasn't thrown a touchdown in a few games.
Right.
So it's like, where's the balance of your quarterback? You can't just neuter him to the point where, be safe, be smart, be safe, be smart. I know that's part of the hits principle is the tee the ball, take care of the ball. But man, I want my quarterback making plays.
Yeah, I remember one of the things that came up with multiple people saying like, well, he's a highlight reel quarterback, and I don't like that. I want somebody who's gonna just do the little things or whatever. And it's like, I just don't know, man. Like, this is the kid's superpower. He can create. I know you can't necessarily build the whole ship out of that, but if you're trying to take that superpower away from him, like I just don't think I don't think that's a very good idea. Like, it just seems really dumb. Like, I don't know if there's another position analogy that you can make, because quarterback is so unique. But you got this pass rusher that's got like an amazing bull rush, and it's like, you don't do that here. We only do speed rushing here, right? Like, I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me that you would take away what this guy's best at. And yeah, you need to have some of that base flow of your offense. You need to have some of those things that just make sure that you can kind of stay ahead of the sticks and continue. But when you look back at the plays that Caleb has made before these last 3 games, because he really hasn't been able to make much happen in the last 3 games, a lot of the stuff that really was explosive plays and impactful, a lot of it was still a little bit of the off script stuff, right? Like, he gets flushed from the pocket, he's keeping his eyes downfield, and he's able to make some plays. But even that hasn't been all that great lately, because it doesn't seem like they spend any time on the scramble drill.
Yeah.
Like, it's just this offense is built for somebody else. Now, I think somebody can, Steven Ruiz, I think, maybe put out that the worst quarterback that could run this offense to a functional level in the league right now is Justin Herbert. Translation: he's basically saying that it's going to take a top 3, top 5 quarterback. I mean, Herbert's got an amazing processor and a fantastic arm. Like, I have a very high opinion of Justin Herbert. He plays quarterback at a high level. And I believe Steven Ruiz or whoever said that.
I think it was Ruiz. Yeah.
Ruiz, okay. Was saying the same thing. He's basically saying this offense is not real. It's not really functional. Like, you would have to have a top level quarterback to make this functional, not a good offense, not a great offense, functional, right? So he's saying this thing's broken. This thing's broken. It's clearly not built for Caleb Williams. It's clearly not built for a young quarterback in his first offense. And so, in this, again, these are guys that look at this stuff all the time, that have a league perspective, that can kind of understand where the Bears are at with this, and they're saying this thing's broken, right? So I don't want to totally excuse, like you say, he's not there. There are throws that are there, and he's not making them. I am total disagreement with a couple of the screenshot artists that I've seen out there. Like, this guy's open on this play. Okay, but like, his eyes are on the right side of the field. Please don't talk to me about, Roma Dunze open on the left side of the field. Like, that's not, he's running a progression. Now, you can question, like Kurt Warner has, whether or not the pure progression passing game makes any sense. Clearly, they haven't had the running game marry with the passing game all that well. We haven't seen a ton of play action out of this unit either. So there's just, it doesn't, again, we're still stuck in this same mode that we've been since we've started podcasting, where can we get an offense that marries the run game and the pass game with the play action game, that makes sense together, that sort of builds off each other, where you can have counters and and things start to make sense? Because I'm not seeing any of that.
I watch enough NFL football besides the Bears, and like, I'm literally jealous watching other teams. Like,
Sure.
I'm so watching the way they kind of go through the progressions. I'm kind of watching how some of the route concepts are. You watch the all 22 of the Bears, and there are like guys right next to each other. Like, there was a play I was stuck in my head. I was watching the game earlier today, and it was a play where, I remember this. It looked like the Pats jumped off sides late in the game. I think Caleb thought he had a free play.
Yep.
So he just chucked it deep to Rome. I think it was Cole Kmet's like right next to him. It's like 5 yards away. Like, there's 2 receivers in the same area again. And this happens time and time again. And it's like, what happened? Like, with Shane Waldron comes to Chicago, he just forgets how to scheme things up. The Seahawk offense is not as good as it was during Waldron's time, So, I mean, he was clearly doing something good there. Yeah, that was the comment from Jackson Smith and Nick Jigba, who, whenever I hear it mentioned, I just want to just reach through Twitter or whoever it is, just slap somebody. Because look, that was a rookie receiver crying because he was third in targets. That's all that was. That's what he was. That's what his gripe was. Oh, I'm not going to say anything about what. Well, yeah, because you're not getting as many targets as Metcalf or Lockett because you weren't as good at the time. Maybe this year you're better. You're warranting more targets, but then know your role, okay, and let the offense run through the big dog there. So that's what that was. Waldron was fine. We all love the Waldron hire. Something has happened. This is not the same guy that was there, and maybe it's a personality thing. Maybe Pete Carroll, the head coach of Seattle, was better at delivering Waldron's message. Maybe he had to soften his message, or maybe he had to enhance his message to the team, and that's something Flus can't do. The Flus-Waldron pairing, it's been a mistake.
Yep, absolutely. Let's move on to stat because we spent a lot of time already, and I want to make sure that I can eat dinner tonight because we're on track right now to go till midnight, I think. Not just kidding, but let's go to stats. What'd you have? What kind of number? I got a fun one. So
you have a fun one. Okay,
well,
mine is not fun.
It's not fun at all, but like it's unique to me digging and doing research. So
okay, mine is 11.4%, and that is the Chicago Bears league leading sack percentage allowed. They are now leading the league in sack percentage. That's how many times you drop back divided by sacks. They have not been sacked as many times as the Browns so far, but the Browns, I think, have one more game. So, but yeah, 11.4%. And look, not all sacks are on the O-line. Some of these, there's at least 3 that I know off the top of my head that I'm going to put on Caleb when I go through sack watch. He, I believe, is leading the sack watch in sacks allowed. Now, look, some of those sacks he's taken because it's a smart play. Not every sack is always a negative, but he's still taking too many sacks. Pass protection schemes have been bad. What is Chris Morgan doing for this franchise as the O-line coach? The one holdover, right? We got to keep Chris Morgan. We're going to keep him. We're going to fire Getsy and all the offensive guys. We're going to keep Chris Morgan. I have not been impressed with Morgan since day one. I don't get some of his schemes in the run game. I don't get what he's doing there. I can't find how anything marries. And now this year, of course, he is now also your run game coordinator. What is he coordinating? We talk about how nothing's married. There are not concepts we don't see. I mean, we see. I saw too many times. I saw pretty much the same run play over and over. The Caleb came up. He kind of went through his no huddle stuff. They had 2 tight ends on the wing. Hand off to Swift. Same play 3 or 4 times per series was just happening. I'm not seeing any creativity in the run game. They still can't pick up a stunt. Look, now maybe the talent's not there, but like we said, the Patriots, they had a bunch of backups in. They had guys playing out of position. They were okay. The Bears were not. Chris Morgan, if Waldron does go, I mean, that may break sometime in the next, maybe tonight it might break. I don't see why you keep Chris Morgan either.
One of the sacks was by basically a special teamer. And
he was there to spy. Yeah, that was his job. And he just ran in there and just sacked Caleb.
And like the announcing crew was like, he's just normally a special teams ace, but he's getting in on the sack. It was just like, hey, everybody, let's tee off. Let's go get one. And that's what's going to keep happening, right? Like these defensive linemen are going to see these stats. They're going to see the tape and they're like licking their chops. And so this is going to keep happening. This is one of those things where they'll keep running this until you stop it, right? Well, that's the same thing the other way around. The Bears offensive line is going to get tested by the Packers this week. I don't even want to think about the next week against the Vikings and Brian Flores and what he can do, right? That's a disaster waiting to happen. 9 sacks against the Patriots is probably equivalent to 20 sacks against the Vikings. Like it's going to be rough. The highest sack percentage already, that doesn't surprise me after the last couple of games. But they haven't got into the hard part of the schedule yet. Like this is like let's put the blinking red light on. Like this is bad. These were bad teams. Yeah. These are bad defenses, bad pass rushers, and they just got schooled. It is awful. It is awful. Okay, my number. 399.
This is going to be sad. I saw your tweet about this earlier. This is sad.
fun. This is fun,
This is
Lester.
not
We're
fun.
having fun. Okay. When you look at Bears history, essentially it comes down to the Halas era. There's 4 10-year segments. George Halas, weird career. He's kind of a player coach, and then he turns over to a coach, does 10 years. And he takes a couple years off, trying to like run the franchise. Then he comes back, coaches for 10 more years, the second 10-year chunk. Then he goes and he fights in World War II. The owner of the Chicago Bears, who was a head coach of the Chicago Bears in his 40s, says, I'm going to go on a Navy ship and fight World War II. It is an insane story, but that is for another day. He comes back and he coaches a third time for 10 more years. Gives it up, then he comes back. Now, maybe questionable, but comes back. He coaches for another 10 years, gets the 63 championship. He's in the Hall of Fame. Okay, fine. He retires. For the final time, he walks away. 40 years of coaching, 4 10-year segments. Then the Bears are terrible. And it isn't until they bring in Ditka, and then Ditka obviously is a legendary coach. So that time in between Halas and Ditka is really known as the black hole, the dead zone of this Bears franchise. From 1968 to 1981, it's 14 seasons. It's 203 games. They were 81 and 122. It's a .399 winning percentage. I grew up in the late 80s, but like really not understanding football like 90s, and then in college in the early 2000s. So for me, I remember a lot of bad football in the 90s. And Lovie Smith, universally thought of as the 3rd best coach in team history. Okay. So that space between Ditka and Lovie is I probably watched all those games. I lived that era. That was 93 to 03, 11 seasons. They were 75 and 91, a .452 winning percentage. So that was a bad time. So I imagine everybody talking about that time between Halas and Ditka being worse. They're right. It was terrible. It was terrible. Since Lovie Smith was unceremoniously fired after a 10-win season, the Bears they're in their 12th season since that happened. They have played 188 games. By the end of this year, it'll be 196. Currently, in those 188 games, they are 75 and 113. .399 win percentage, the exact same as the dead zone, that black hole of the 70s that everybody talks about being the worst. They have to win at least 4 of the last 8 to get above that .399. Otherwise, they are below. I would be willing to bet a fair amount of money that how they're playing right now, they are not going to win 4 of their last 8. So this is officially the worst era of Chicago Bears football.
Packers twice, Lions twice, Vikings twice, 49ers who are looking like 49ers.
A very good football team.
And then Seattle who looks like they're better than the Bears too. Yeah. The Bears may not win a game. They may not win another game the rest of the season, and we talk about how it would take a disastrous season to move on from Flus. I feel we were already in it. The way the games have went, the way the games, the Hail Mary, unprepared in Arizona. I saw our guy Ryan Drosty coined that the disaster in the desert. It's like, and then of course we get this last one, whatever this was against the awful Patriot team. We are in disaster mode. A .399 winning percentage on its way down. This is it. What are you waiting for as a franchise? It just makes no sense.
I had a hunch. I wanted to do the numbers, and then when it comes out the exact same, it's like, this is gold. This is gold. We've got to run with it, but it's going to be worse. It's going to be worse. And you just have to hope that, it's always darkest before the dawn, right? Say whatever cliche you want, but you have to hope that just from the mathematical standpoint, this is essentially the same number of games, right?
Yeah.
We talked about 203 games in that stretch. And by the end of the year, it'll be 196, essentially the same. You got to hope that this next coach is the guy. He's the next Ditka or Halas, or like he's the next guy that's going to bring this team a championship. And you're going to look, okay, yeah, that 12-year stretch sucked, but now we go, right? That's all we got as Bears fans is hope. What else do we got? We got a break coming up. Before we hit the break, let's talk about our friends at Underdog Fantasy.
So what is Underdog Fantasy? It is the place to play if you're a sports fan looking to win some money while watching sports. With over 5 million happy players and 2 billion Underdog makes it fun and easy to cash in all your favorite athletes' performances. Compete against other players just by selecting higher or lower on 2 or more player stats, and you can win up to 1,000 times your money. So turn every touchdown into a win with Underdog. You think Caleb Williams will get higher this week? He's had a bad stretch. At some point, he's going to be due, right? It's going to happen soon. Will he get higher than 200 yards this week? Okay. Will DeAndre Swift get higher than 50 yards rushing? We'll see what happens. But cook up some entries for a shot to win real cash prizes all football season long. Underdog is the best place to play champions. So sign up and deposit now using our promo code CITY to get $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. You can also play Red Zone Rush, which is a game you won't find anywhere else. Just pick whether or not a player will score a touchdown by swiping left or right for yes or no. Simple as that. Plus, your entry will be automatically boosted for a 51% profit boost when you play. Underdog is fun and simple. And this week, I hate to say it, I think I'm going to go lower because the Packers are I'm so afraid of this game. This game is going to be so bad. The Bears offense is broken. So I don't have any faith in going higher on any of the Bears this week, whether it's Komet or any of those guys. I think I'm going to go lower. I'm going to see what they got. I might go lower. And then, but you know what? You can win 1,000 times your money by choosing higher or lower player stats, passing yards, interceptions, touchdowns, and so much more. Just download the app today. Use, again, our code is CITY, CITY, to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. That easy. Download the app today and use our promo code $1,000. Every player, every touchdown, just select higher or lower on Underdog. And now I got to get through this disclaimer. Must be 18 plus, 19 plus Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus Colorado for some games, 21 plus Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. Arizona's 1-800-NEXT-STEP, 1-800-639-8783, or text NEXT STEP to 53342. In New York, you call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467369.
Nailed it. Quick break. Other side. We will try to find 3 Bears worthy of some porridge. Stick with us. All right, Lester. 3 Bears, hot bowl of porridge, cold bowl of porridge, and just right. Let's start with the hot bowl. What you got?
Hot bowl. I'm going to go to defense. I'm going to go linebacker TJ Edwards. He had 13 tackles, 1 pick. This is actually his first double-digit tackles since week 1. So he's kind of had a bit of a down year thus far. He talked about it today in his presser that he's got to work on some stuff himself. It was nice that they put him out there in front of the media, him and DeAndre Swift after Flus, to kind of answer all these questions about the coaching staff. Strange.
Did he answer the questions about the coaching staff?
I mean, they asked them. I mean, they asked Swift.
Yeah.
They asked everyone, what are they going to say? It's like,
well, the players aren't going to say anything.
Yeah, the players aren't going to say anything. Flus had nothing to say really either. I don't know, just not a lot of hot bowls to go around, but I saw the stat line jumped out at me. So then I watched the game. I'm like, okay. And then there were a few plays where he wasn't involved in the play and pass coverage, but his presence in the zone kind of altered the play. I'm like, okay. I feel comfortable going TJ Edwards as having a nice game against the Pats.
Yeah, it's definitely TJ Edwards for me too. Honestly, I think it was the only answer. Yeah. If anybody else has one, we'd love to hear it. But I thought the pick was nice. Right. They made I know he may kind of threw it right at him, but it was still it wasn't like in his chest. Like he still had to make an athletic play to do it. He's right in front of it. I think a lot of linebackers that would have just been an incompletion, but he was able to make a nice athletic catch and tap the feet in bounds. So I think that's really impressive. And yeah, like you said, his tackle number is a little down this year. Like he was, cranking those numbers up last year, but maybe not quite as prolific this year, but a nice game from him. Yeah, there was some good stuff about TJ Edwards. Anything else about TJ that you want to say, or?
No, just they mentioned something in the on the radio side of things. My buddy gave me a call during the game. He was like, "Hey, they kind of mentioned you via what TJ said." I coached TJ in Little League. I was his 8th grade coach, And I guess at some point there was a Joniak said something that they interviewed TJ, and he said that his Little League coach told him something that kind of stuck with him. And, I'm like, well, I tell my guy, I'm like, I had him 1 year. It might not even been me. But then when he kind of said what it was, I'm like, there's something I normally would always tell my guys. So it's kind of interesting to kind of hear that that something stuck with a guy. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah. So for those of you that are youth football coaches or youth baseball, youth coaches, teachers, right? Like a lot of that stuff sticks with people for a long time. So, you do hold a lot of power over impressionable minds. So, know that you're, making a difference. And it's really cool that a player that you coached became a professional. And then not only that, but played for your favorite football team. Very cool stuff. Small world. Gotta love it. Let's turn it around and let's do the cold bowl porridge.
I know he was your Trench tribute, but I kind of had Coleman Shelton.
Oh, he was terrible. This was tongue in cheek.
Yeah, I know. But I had him and Doug Kramer. Those two guys, when I'm watching the Bears O-line, my eyes are drawn to them. One reason is they're bad. Yeah. The second reason is they're both small. They're do not small. Look like they belong next to each other on that line.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what you said on the top was like, if Kramer's going to play, you should be playing your center because
next to two big guards.
You can hide them. You can't hide them there. And there were some plays where Shelton got blown up. There was a play toward the end of the half. The Bears, I don't know why they called a draw with no timeouts left in the half. When they were driving a little bit. No timeouts. Here's a draw. Who are you fooling with a draw? And Shelton got blown up. So him and those two guys, because they stood out so much. That's my cold bowl this week.
Excellent choice. I feel like I beat up the offensive line quite a bit. So I went, to me, rewatching, and again, I don't think it matters, but there were 2 drop picks, and I just think it's a very different. I got a little irritated with our guy Kyrie. Still has some Patriots connections. There's a few Patriots people that I follow because of Kyrie and, kind of seeing this. And they were tweeted out like the front page of the paper. And I was kind of reading the Patriots perspective. And one guy was like, essentially like, Patriots got the better quarterback. And he's like, oh, I know this maybe could age poorly, but I feel confident in saying, and I'm like, I don't know, man. Drake May had a couple nice throws, but he threw one interception right at TJ Edwards. He threw another that Hicks dropped, and he threw another that Byard dropped.
Yeah.
And so my cold bulls go to the safeties for dropping interceptions. One, because it would have changed the score. It would have made it a little closer. I don't know that it would have changed the outcome, but like it would have changed the score. And 2, maybe I wouldn't have had to read that piece of garbage.
Yeah.
Right. Like, come on, like just don't even write that crap. Like that's crap. So that gets my cold bowl is if the ball's there for you, take it.
Gotcha. Kyrie actually does cover the Patriots for his other job. I mean, he has a real gig and he works in New England media. So he kind of covers the Patriots, and he had a great article today. He just published a little bit before we went live here. And he was kind of talking about the difference in Caleb Williams and Drake May. And he says right now, Drake May is the better quarterback, and it's because of coaching. It's because they're scheming things up for him. They're making things easy on him. They're not putting too much on his plate. He's able to kind of play within the offense. He's running when it's there. I know before this game, he was averaging 10 yards a carry, a scramble. So he was taking what the defense gives him. He wasn't trying to do too much. And that's because his being coached up to play that way. Caleb being coached up to be not that way. So
to be Kyle Orton.
He's Kyle Orton. And then to Kyrie's credit, his first paragraph was, I'm not saying I take Drake over Caleb. I still think Caleb's the top quarterback in this class. But right now, this is the data. The data shows that May had a better game, and it comes down to coaching.
Yep. If those guys hold on to those interceptions, they may not say that.
They may not say
that. That's what I'm saying, right? The narrative changes if he throws 3 interceptions. Let's talk about the just right.
I'm going to go with kicker Cairo Santos.
Okay.
Because in this game, he made a field goal. He was the Bears' only offensive points, but it was his 69th straight field goal inside the 40-yard line. So kudos to Cairo Santos. He can't kick. He doesn't have the biggest of legs. Has gotten better over the years, but inside 40, Cairo's automatic.
I like it. We like Cairo Santos here. We know that he's not. There are still some that are out there and they don't like it because he can't hit 58-yard field goals where there's other, like there's always the wandering eye. There's always a little bit of jealous. I just want to go back to the time where the Bears couldn't find a kicker that could make a 42-yard field goal. Like this guy's been really consistent. You know that you have to at least get within 52 to feel pretty comfortable. That's fine. He's very consistent inside of that range. So I like that one. I just was going to take another shot at the offensive line. My just right was when you start 3 centers in your interior offensive line and 2 backup tackles at your tackle spots, I expect you to give up 9 sacks. And that's what happened. I spent like an hour before the game on Sunday going through this stuff and and talking about it because I was like, this is going to be bad. I haven't heard a ton of people talk about this, but this lineup is really bad. And this is with Jenkins still in there. And then when Jenkins went down, I was like, oh, this is crazy. This is crazy. Cause you saw it, like who's going to go in if one of these guys goes down? Cause you saw Davis was out. Right. And you saw the snaps from Jake Curon last week.
Yeah.
Like that wouldn't be very good if he has to play significant snaps. And so you're like, is Doug Kramer really going to play guard if somebody goes down? Is Doug Kramer going to come in at center and Shelton's going to play guard? Like none of these ideas seem like good ideas. And then it happened. And here you are. So my just right goes to a backup offensive line doing exactly what I thought they were going to do.
Exactly. There was one point in the game where I forget, it might have been Kramer, or it might have been Pryor. One of the O linemen was slow to get up. And that's when it went in my head, man.
Pryor.
Pryor. Okay. So I'm watching Pryor slow to go. I'm like, man, if he's hurt and they're forced to bring in Kern, that's like I said, that's Mercedes Lewis is now your next man up. And there was like a small part of me thinking, man, that would be so fun to see the Bears forced to play Mercedes Lewis at tackle, just because I just want to see what would happen there. Of course, at this point, the Bears, it's over. It's they're getting smoked by a terrible Pats team. Now I want to see it all.
What would you do in that situation?
I mean, it would have to be Lewis. I mean, he would have to be the guy.
Yeah, I just like, what would you do though? Like the play call, you can't play your normal plays. You can't be like, hey, hold up and pass pro. I mean, you just sit him and Kmet next to each other and.
Him, Kmet, Everett, there is no more fullback in the roster.
Back over there, like, yeah, that would be. It would be interesting from the curiosity standpoint, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I want to finish with another blame pie. I put this up there. I assume it hasn't changed much. I wrote this down an hour or two ago. I put this out this morning on Twitter. I said, who's most responsible for this 3-game disaster streak? And I put the option as Ryan Poles, Matt Eberflus, Shane Waldron, and Caleb Williams. And of course, people want to argue that I didn't put the right person in there, and that's fine. I said comment, right? But there's some people that want to blame Chris Morgan instead. There's people that want to blame just
McCaskey.
Just stick with
where's the all of the above.
Just stick with the 4. I can only put 4 on a poll. The results. Matt Eberflus wins 59%. Second is Ryan Poles, 21%. And there were a lot of people that needed to tell me that Poles kept Eberflus, so it's on Poles. And this is a fundamental disagreement that I have with that thinking. I do not think that was an available path for him. I could be wrong, but I don't think that George McCaskey was going to pay out 3 years on a coaching contract, particularly when that came out, when Biggs came out with that report that it was actually a 5-year coaching contract, not a 4-year contract. I am convinced that I'm right on this, that there is no way George McCaskey was going to pay out 3 years. So I'm not putting the polls, keeping Eberflus on polls. I'm not even putting hiring him that much onto him, because I think he was given 3 options and he picked what he thought was the best of the 3. Maybe he picked wrong. Maybe Dan Quinn would have been better. I don't really know about Caldwell, but like whatever, right? Shane Waldron was 3rd with 19%. And Caleb Williams was last with 2%. Thank you,
Yeah.
Twitterverse. Thank you for saying that the rookie quarterback only deserves 2%. So I thought about this, like if it was an actual pie and you were cutting this into, and giving them that percentage, right? You would just cut it basically into 5 pieces, and you would hand 1 to Waldron, 1 to Poles, 3 to Flus, and then you just scrape everything that didn't get onto an actual piece, like onto a fork, and hand the fork over to
Yeah.
Caleb. You can take one little bite of the blame pie. Everybody else gets a full portion, and Flus gets a triple portion.
There was some reports that Poles doubled down and said Flus was his guy. I mean, that's out there. I mean, but what is he supposed to
What's
say?
he gonna say?
Yeah, what is he going to say? So there are some reports out there. I know people are because I got the same thing in my mentions. Oh, it's when is Poles going to get blamed? Poles picked him. Yeah, okay, he did, but once that came out with it was a 5-year deal. Whether you wanted to let him go or not. I mean, look, the whole Bears are cheap thing. I mean, there's some truth to it at some points, but you know what I mean? They still spend money when they have. I mean, they make a deal for Montez Sweat, huge money, Montez Sweat, huge money, DJ Moore. They'll pay when they have to pay. But historically,
But you
they just haven't made the move when it comes to coaching staff when they've had that much money on the books.
It's a separate pot of money.
Separate,
right?
exactly.
Like the salary cap for players, they have to spend.
There's a floor.
Certain amount.
Yeah.
They have to spend that. And so it's calculated over a 3-year period. They have to spend X amount of, X percent of that. That is its own thing. And then there's operations, there's everything else. And there's no regulator on that. So like the Bengals are actually a pretty like low, income, maybe not low income, but they don't spend a lot on coaches. They're kind of known for being like a cheaper organization. Whereas some of these guys that have, hedge funds or whatever, like that bought in as wealthy people, they spend a little more. They're willing to go after the big fish coach and pay a lot of money, right? That's what it means. Like people out there, please don't confuse the two. That they have to spend money on players. They have to do that. That's part of being part of the NFL. They do not have to spend money on coaches. And you look at the history, and they just really haven't. They've really usually gone for the first time head coaches, and then they have had a tendency to keep a guy an extra year because they don't want to pay out that year. The thing about coaching contracts is that they're guaranteed, and so you have to pay out the rest of that contract. And if they go on and get another job, then it's offset. There's usually offset language in there. I know that like Kyle Shanahan had as part of him going to San Francisco, he signed a 7-year deal, which I am pretty sure I'm remembering this correctly, but he signed like a 7-year deal and there was no offset language. So if they moved on from him quickly, they would have to pay out 7 years, which was a longer contract than most head coaches were getting, particularly at the time. And if he went and got another job, they would still have to pay him that amount. And so that there are ways to kind of like play this as a head coach, but the Bears have just generally been shopping on more of the bargain end of the head coaches, and they have been willing to pay most of that deal, or haven't been willing to pay it out early. They've wanted to keep that guy a little bit longer and not pay out a dead year. So it's a different pot of money. It'd be like if you ran a grant program at your work and you're spending all this money as your grant program at work, and then someone said, well, yeah, but you're not spending the money that you make at home. And it's like, well, yeah, those 2 pots of money. Like this is my job, and then this is over here. This is my personal income, right? It's kind of similar like that. They're not the same pot of money. And so I think when they say that the McCaskies are cheap and the Hallis was cheap or whatever, that was true back before salary cap. He was maybe a little bit cheap back then. He's also brought the league through the Depression. I think we can give George Hallis a break from that, but it's no longer true because it can't be true on the player side. But I think that relative to other big organizations like the Dallas Cowboys, like the Giants, like some of these other teams that the Bears, I think, want to see themselves with, or Bears fans want to see their team with, they aren't spending nearly as much as those other teams on things like coaches.
Yeah, it's interesting to look at just the way the whole contracts worked out. The reason I thought Flukes was safe this year, unless it was a disaster, is because they got rid of the offensive staff, which they're still paying. I mean, they're still paying Getsy, they're still paying, and then they get Waldron and Brown, and they bring in all these other guys, the kind of a whole new staff, So it's like they're paying a lot of extra money. So now there's essentially this year they're paying 2 offensive staffs. So I'm like, yeah, they're not going to clean house after this year unless it's a disaster. But now here we are. The Bears are 4-5. It's a disaster. They're going to end up doing it anyway. Again, everything's hindsight, right? They should have pulled the trigger last off season, but like I said, who knows? Maybe it was like, hey, I mean, look, everyone knew the logic dictates you get a guy like Caleb, you line it up. You want to have everything lined up. Bill, all of our shows on our channel, we've written about it at the site. Line it up. It makes the most sense. Everyone knew it. Everyone talks about it. Bears didn't do it. It's biting him in the ass right now.
Sure is. And we're going to continue the cycle. So you got to hope that Caleb can break the cycle. That's what. So at A number 1, you hope that Poles, Warren, McCaskey, these guys are smart enough to finally pull the trigger and say, this guy clearly isn't the guy to lead this team. He's not a strong leader. Doesn't have the right direction. We were wrong. Let's get him out of here. Let's go get the right guy. 2, you hope that they go get the right guy. And 3, you hope that Caleb can survive the last 8 games because they're coming. Those defensive linemen are coming. They might feel bad and pick you up off the ground and pat you on the helmet, which literally happened against the Patriots. But they're coming. They're gonna attack you between the whistles, right? So you got to hope that he can survive these next 8 games, and then you hope that this didn't break him, and that he can reset and come back stronger next year, because he is uber talented, and that's all you got to hope for is that this team the team's decisions in the last offseason did not ruin this guy.
God, it's just so Bears. It's just such a Bears thing to do. It's just, God, please let this be the time. Just come on.
Can't believe we have to wait another year to figure this out.
Yeah.
I wanted some fun this year. I feel like I've been, covering this disaster. Again, the worst era in Bears football history. We've been covering it, and I would just want some good. I just want some good times. That's
one more loss. It's going to be official. It's coming, and the Packers are tough. I mean, they beat the Bears 10 in a row. They haven't won a game in a long time, and it's sad. It's funny. I'm watching the game, right? I'm watching the rewatch today. And there were plays I'm watching. I didn't even remember the plays. It's like I must have blacked out watching the game live because I was so apathetic at this bullshit I was watching. I'm like I don't recall these plays, some of the plays, and that's like this is where I'm at as a fan. I mean, I'm watching this and like, oh my God, it's just terrible. We deserve better as a fan base. Damn it.
Yes, that's a good place to leave it. We're going to get out of here. We'll stick around for just a couple minutes for the YouTube crowd. Again, if you ever want to join us, 6 o'clock, most Mondays. Lester and I are definitely going to be doing a post game though this year after a Thursday night game. I believe the Seahawks won, and maybe we'll switch things up somewhere else too. But definitely doing a post game Bear and Balance that won't probably be balanced because it'll be right after the game, and I'm generally pretty emotional right after a game, so we'll have some fun there. But all right, let's get out of here. And until next time, bear down.
Like our guy Andrew, he's already looking forward to 2025. That's where we're at, right? That's where we are as fans, because we see where this is heading. The Bears have the toughest stretch of the closeout of a season. We see this is over. Please just let's sim this. Let's keep Caleb healthy. Let's get the hell out of here and let's see what happens next year. It's already happened. The people that hate the NFL draft, well, tough. It's coming. The mock drafts are always there, and I think Jacob's going to ramp it up even more now because the season is over. Time of death.
I got to be honest with you. Like the last 2 years ago was a lot of fun because you're like, okay, like they got the number 1 pick. This big trade. This is a lot of fun, right? Like it was cool. Like you knew it was a rebuilding team. You knew that like you wanted your team to get the most capital possible. It happened. It was cool. And then you get DJ Moore and there's some cool stuff that happened. And then last year with the Panthers pick, that was really exciting. The Bears got they got the top 10 pick too. And okay, you got 2 top 10 picks and like, oh, Caleb Williams. And like, oh, I hope it's going to be Rome Odunze. Here it is. They got it. It's great. Perfect. Okay. Fun. This year, I'm like, I don't care. Like, I know they got the Panthers second pick. They still have their own first pick. They got their own set. Like, there's going to be, they've got a lot of capital coming into this next year. That's going to be great. It's going to be good for the team. I've got the big thing. I got the big thing last year, right? Like I got the gift, the quarterback gift and the wide receiver. Like, I'd love to see an offensive lineman drafted high. I'd love to see a defensive lineman drafted high and another offensive lineman drafted and another offensive lineman. I mean, I get it. But I'm not ready to dive into that.
Year 4, if you're counting on the draft in year 4, that's a problem.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, some people that we talk to, they're like, oh man, they're going to be bad. They kind of saw this coming, right? Some of the bad stuff. They're like, oh, they got a tank. Like, I don't care. The draft pick shouldn't matter at this point in your rebuild, right? Year 4, you should not be counting on these draft picks to put you over the top. Yeah, I think they're going to overcorrect and go a lot of O-line because you have to. And I think they're going to spend a lot of money in free agency on O-line because you have to. So they're going to overcorrect this, kind of what the Chiefs did a couple years back, right?
Yeah.
The Chiefs kind of went all in. They went center. They signed.
They got Creed Humphrey. They got Trey Smith.
Yep.
They went out and signed.
That's coming.
Brown, maybe at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Orlando Brown. Maybe traded for him. I can't remember exactly what the transaction was. Yeah, I think that'll happen. I mean, I do think Trey Smith will be a free agent. I don't think they can afford him. I do think that the Chiefs, that is, I do think that they'll throw. I mean, there would be a connection. Poles was there. So I do think that he's going to throw a lot of money at Trey Smith and he's going to nail down one of those positions. Darnell Wright, going to be in his 3rd year. You've got that. Okay, fine. And then I think you've got Braxton Jones coming back for his 4th year. And you've got Karan Amagaji with his first full offseason competing for that left tackle spot. That's probably fine. Right. So again, I'm already spending a lot of money in free agents on one guard.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if there's going to be a center that's worth going after or not. But I think that you're probably going to try to hit the draft and you're going to try to get another guard, another center, or you might be looking at trying to get a left tackle with your first pick. If that's the way it goes. I really think that should be a defensive lineman, but boy, it's a thing. I don't really want to do team construction in November, but here we are.
Here we are.
Anything else? Angst in the comments. Number 1 Bears fan says not going to win any more games.
That's where I'm at. I don't see any wins. I thought this team would be in a good place right now. I thought they'd have momentum out of the bye.
Yeah.
6-7 wins.
Right. 6-3, 7-2.
Yeah,
where it looked like
you feel good about yourself as a franchise. Caleb's got some nice games you can look back on and kind of go forward. Rome will be coming around, the whole Keenan thing, and it's now where's the win? They're not going to be favored in none of these games, unless something drastic happens.
No. I mean, I don't know what Seattle's season looks like in a month from now, so around, I think that's a day after Christmas game, a Thursday game. Other than that, 6 divisional games against those 3 teams that are doing really well. I mean, I still don't think the Vikings are that good. They just won a game where, their quarterback threw a bunch of red zone interceptions. The Lions just threw 5 interceptions and won and beat a good team. Like they got resilience on these other teams.
One of the reasons is because they're better coached.
They
can overcome adversity.
Right.
In the game.
And they kept firing.
Yeah.
The Lions kept firing.
Yeah.
Like that was unreal. Man. All right. Well, thanks for joining us, everybody. Appreciate it. It's been quite a 3 weeks. Bears aren't allowed to go on bye week anymore.
Bill has Danny Parkins on with him, and Bill's already said it's a pretty rowdy show. So that's going to be a fun one. Yeah.
You never want to miss Bill when he's angry.
Yeah.
Don't miss Bill anyway, but don't miss Bill when he's angry.
Yeah. Extra special.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.